Alrighty. Hello everybody, I'm your boss, Joe Boss, and welcome to another weekly stream. I'm looking forward to this 4th of July so much. We got a couple of things to go over here. I was going through some threads, some research threads in the Discord on some upcoming political stuff. Hello, Ani. Nice to see you. And man, it's so nice having those research threads just to stay on top of all the different stuff. But when I was looking at the outlooks for this week, what I noticed is there was a lot of focus on the German fiscal policy stuff. And one report after another here in this channel with all these different posts from all these different institutions, like, look at all this research, man. And all this is publicly available stuff. It's just forwarded here like, hey, go to their site, read it. But the main thing, simply put, oh, maybe the music's a little too low, is that a bunch of these different institutions had things to say. So here's ABN. They went ahead and talked about what's going on in Germany. And I was like, there's a lot of institutions from all around the world, in Europe, in Japan, in the United States. They're all talking about this development. They're all focused on this thing. Now, the other thing that they're also talking about are yield spreads, right? They're all talking about how yield spreads are currently the main driver of a lot of FX pricing right now, and how expectations for rate hikes or rate cuts of all these different central banks, and especially at the Fed, are changing everyone's expectations around how these different currencies and assets will perform. But I thought this was a particularly interesting thing to hit on, because frankly, not too many people are talking about this. Hello, H2O. Nice to see you in the chat, my man. But yeah, this is something I want to hit on explicitly because I pretty much know, outside of these reports from these institutions, which, let's just be frank, I don't know too many other people who are going through all these reports and actually breaking this stuff down. It's just like, who on YouTube are you gonna watch who's actually gonna be like, hey, here's like this kind of important thing that's happening politically, economically in Europe that can have some pretty serious ramifications potentially very, very quickly. So we're gonna go over a little bit of this, but first, a little background. So I'm going to move this guy over here to the left and make him. See that guy? That's the leader of Germany. That's Chancellor Merz, Friedrich Merz. And he's got this like smirk on his face. But essentially in here, it's like, hey, there are people in the leading German coalition between his party, so he's the leader of a party called the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, and the SPD, who are essentially the Labour Party. And they're kind of fighting right now over a bunch of the economic proposals that have come in. So they're fighting over these different economic proposals, right? Like what the retirement age is. Now, this article, by the way, was May 5th. This economic proposal stuff is now done. But I was then reading, like, oh, if I now go back to the Discord, I'm reading through some of the posts from these institutions that we get from the Outlooks channel. And I'm reading through some of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. MERS has promised to put an end to the infighting between his party and the party he's in coalition with, the SPD, that characterized the previous government, but has failed to do so. MERS's approval rating, by the way, guys, is like 13%, 10%. It's low. It is rock bottom right now. It is low. And when your approval gets that low and then you lose some elections, and we're having elections coming up in Germany in September here, you can risk having a vote of no confidence occur. So we're going to be assessing that here. Now, I'm going to be absolutely straight up. What's this got to do with trading, right? Why are we focusing on this? Because I can go deeper into this and actually break it down further. But I've had trading experiences where when I wasn't watching this sort of stuff, when I wasn't watching these political developments, and the end result of these developments would occur and realize themselves on a particular day, and then the markets would react, fucking that's crazy, right? We'd have a immediate jump in prices on all sorts of different assets that had exposure, political exposure. And typically currencies have that kind of political exposure. Elections are a big deal. Who is in control of a country and who sets the fiscal policy of the country has a lot of power on the economics of that country and how it performs and how the assets in that country can perform. And also how the bonds in that country move. It's a big deal. So if you don't watch this stuff progress over time and watch the developments, you will be subject to surprises. Now, it's not like, oh, you could be watching this stuff and then something crazy happens out of the blue, and then still the entire market's surprised, and you as a political watcher is also surprised, like, yeah, that stuff happens. But that's got a really, really low frequency, right? That happens very, very infrequently. This sort of stuff is just staying on top of what's developing, seeing how voter intentions and polls are moving, what's the direction, what's the trend, who is friends or enemies with who, and how negotiations on different deals and political things are evolving, fiscal policy negotiations with other parties, with other, you could say, economic interests are developing, and what that ultimately means for a country. And is that good for their fiscal policy? Is it bad for their fiscal policy? Will the country's central bank have to respond to that fiscal policy by hiking or cutting rates? Will their bond market move in a particular way that makes it less appealing to invest in the equities of that country, or even hold their currency? So there's all sorts of assets that are exposed to these developments, and that's why it's important to watch these things. So now let me go into the context here. Like, okay, why is this something now in that realm to watch? Many voters are not so much drawn to the AfD. Now, the AfD is the Alternative for Germany, and they're the leading party right now in Germany. But they do not hold really significant power because all the other parties in Germany have what they call a firewall, an AfD firewall, where they refuse to create a coalition government, a ruling government, with the AfD involved. And that's starting to change. The sentiment around that's starting to change. So many voters are not so much drawn to AfD out of conviction, but rather out of disappointment with the established parties. Indeed, nearly half of voters believe the coalition, the current coalition with the current government, that guy Merz, and the SPD, who they're in coalition with, should not serve out its full term. That's kind of crazy. So when they mean the coalition won't serve out its full term, in Germany they have these federal elections, right? 2029 federal election, and they are going to have it on the 25th of 2029. But in Germany, they can have snap elections and hold their federal elections earlier. Much, much, much earlier. In fact, there are prediction markets out there on the question of when will Germany have this next election. Will it be in 2029, or will it be in 2028, 2027, or even this year in 2026? I'm of the mind now, and this is where the AfD is. They're the one here at the top, and this is the Union, Merz's party. Right here, you can just see it totally flipped in the last 2 months because of the infighting with the SPD. Yeah. If the state elections later this year do not perform well for the CDU, Merz's group, the Union, and the SPD, the group that Merz is in coalition with to have a ruling government, with the AfD, the Greens, and Left gaining respectively as those two parties are losing favorability and power, the odds of a vote of confidence in snap election before the next 2029 general election becomes more likely. And I believe we have that one right here. Check this out. So remember how I said, these parties, they don't want to be in coalition. They have this firewall with the AfD, right? They don't want to, the CDU, the SPD, none of these other German parties want to be in coalition. Well, right now, what's being estimated is that, and my guess is that the CDU will likely need to go into coalition with the AfD in the next government if the CDU wants to be in power. But there's something that kind of needs to change there. So this is when will the next German federal election happen. You can actually see what I put down. I think it's going to be 2027. So I think there's going to be a snap election coming along, that there'll be some political instability on the risk. And then here I have this whole comment on this one. Will the CDU of Germany announce that there'll be an open negotiations in creating a coalition with AfD? And there it is. And we can translate this poll, this German poll, into English. And that's actually the one we were reading over here, where it's essentially saying, hey, a year ago, the policy from the SPD was about 60% of voters for Merz's group, the CDU, 60% of them did not want a coalition at all. No coalition. No, not with the AFD, not at all. And now, as Merz's approval has dropped like to 10%, and approval of the current government has dropped, I think it's definitely below 20% now. Like, people are really unhappy with the current German government. The same people who last year, 60% of them said we don't want to have any coalition with the AFD, now it's 50%. It dropped 9% in a year. So my argument is, hey, that's kind of enlightening. If this continues into next year, or even into 2028, that approval is going to be like 45-35%. And that'll really open the door for an opportunity for the CDU and the AFD to get a coalition going. But these are polls on the voters. So I said the primary risk with this information is, hey, voters, sure, they might change their mind, but it's really the leadership of the CDU. And they might be a whole lot more committed to keeping the AFD out by keeping that firewall up. So, unless the leaders of the CDU, like Merz, start gradually changing their opinion to be more friendly with the AFD, or they get new leadership that is AFD friendly, then I think there's going to be a whole lot of political instability in Germany. And you can see poll bang for Merz's government. Citizens expect coalition collapse within a year. Only 16% out of 1,000 respondents were satisfied with the government. Not good. And Merz at an all-time low. Poll penalizes the CDU, CSU, and SPD again. In the poll conducted by the Opinion Research Group, the Union stands at 22%. And the AFD is at 27% for voting intention. Only 13% of people polled were satisfied with the Chancellor of Germany's work. It went down 3% in a month. That's pretty bad. 84% of respondents said they were less or not at all satisfied with the Chancellor. And then these are the voting intentions. So most people want to vote for the AFD, then the CDU, then the Greens, then the SPD. Now the SPD is between a rock and a hard place because the Greens and Die Linke, the left, these people, these are the environmentalists and these are the communists, essentially. And the SPD are socialists, left centerish people. There's left centerist people in the CDU-CSU as well, but you know, they're still on the more conservative side. I mean, the C stands for Christian, so. But if the SPD loses more and more to the Greens and Die Linke, the left, the CDU, in order to get pretty much anything done without having to go into coalition potentially with the SPD and the Greens or the SPD and Die Linke, will probably need the AFD. Right. Man. 9 out of 10 Germans believe additional investments are needed to prepare for future heat waves. Yeah, because they're not having a good time with their heat waves at the moment. So yeah, that's what I got going on Meticulous. Actually, if you want to see something here, I was checking out my profile. This is my probability calibration. I don't have, I think, that many questions finalized, so my calibration chart looks really weird. But if I go to, I think, questions, track record, there we go. There's a couple of really good ones I had. Will the United States attack Venezuela? And you can see where I was at the whole time. I was like, yeah, it's about 50%, and then it happened. And I got a lot of points for that one, man. I got a lot of points for that one. And then what was this one? Oh, software jobs. Yeah. Started losing a bit here, but that's also because I'm answering a whole lot more questions. Like, instead of just picking a couple I thought I would be, like, really on top of. Yeah. Oh, this was on the government shutdown. Oh my god, I went immediately over here to like 100%. Yeah, so I was way more aggressive on the community. Wow, look at that little animation. Yeah, check that out. I was like, probably like that. So I'm like shifting my distribution to the right, and then it like jumps right there. Boom. Like, yeah, that's happening. Yeah, you guys do some forecasting on Meticulous. Build up a track record. That's what I'm doing. Oh yeah, speaking of other elections going on, this is the current polling for who will be the next prime minister of Israel, because I think their election is, what, November? October. Yeah. So these are the current votes. There's only 28 forecasters here, but that should be good enough for most situations. So yeah. Let's continue here. Where is it? So back onto the Germany thing. Let's see here. The coalition has already suffered setbacks in 2 state elections, and risk further losses in 3 more elections scheduled for September. Oh boy. So the liberals, the Labour Party essentially of Germany, say, hey, whether They're losing a lot of voters. They either have to be more socially conservative to win back some voters from the AFD, or they have to pursue more progressive policies to win back people who went to the Greens or Delinka. Yeah. Further political fragmentation appears likely in the event of a poor electoral outcome for the SPD. It is even conceivable that the SPD could withdraw from the government, the CDU, and that would cause essentially a snap election, because at that point there'd be no coalition unless the CDU wanted to go into coalition with the AFD right away, which I think is, that's a bit of a stress. They might have their arm twisted though. The CDU might then opt to govern without a fixed coalition, seeking ad hoc majorities on a case-by-case basis. This applies all the more to Merz, who is unpopular even among CDU voters. Overall, the government remains on fragile footing. Early elections are a possibility, with the AFD potentially gaining further ground. For the economy, this would mean heightened uncertainty and a risk of delays in reforms and decisions on defense and infrastructure spending. All the more reason for the current coalition to press ahead with reforms, because if they can get the reforms that they just announced yesterday done, that will whip up support, hopefully, for the SPD and the CDU going into the September elections. And they can say, look, we know you don't like us, but we have these reforms, and these are fairly popular reforms, and we're trying to get them in. However, if I remember, yeah, you can see this is when they announced that meeting of announcing their package, their economic deal. Oh man, I forget which outlook it was, but actually let me see here. Maybe it's the 2026 German state elections. Yeah, I should have quoted it. But I'm going to paraphrase because I remember. One of the outlooks posted here, wow, a bunch of new outlooks just came through the pipe. But one of the outlooks that was posted here went to a document that essentially said, hey, this deal that they just announced is only about 10 billion euro worth of economic stimulus, of economic relief. It's only about 10 billion euro. And Germany has about 4,000 million euro. It's about four. It's a lot. It's a very, very, very small stimulus for the size of the German economy. And not only that, but these kinds of reforms can sometimes take 1 to 2 years to get implemented completely. And considering what we know so far about the relationship between the SPD and the CDU fighting like mad over the last 2 months, and that dramatically hurt their popularity in the polls. And those fights were over this deal, by the way. This fight was all over exactly how do they send this money to people. For that, we can go and even read the actual announcement. Like, this is the actual thing right here. You can see there's the SPD and CDU. You can see there's Merz right there. Significant reforms to make Germany fit for the future, right? Tax relief, making pensions future-proof, making the job market fit for the future, more growth, reduce bureaucracy. Look, these are generally popular things that Germans can get behind, but the people negotiating and coming up with this deal fought each other like mad. They really went at each other's throats. So exactly how do we expect them to get these reforms done before September? They would need to push extremely hard. Extremely hard. It would not be easy. To say the least. But because you have July, August, September, so you got about a month and a half ish before the election to pass these reforms, and optimally you want to pass them this month so that then you can campaign on them all throughout the month of August, or get them done early August so then you can campaign on these successes for at least a month. I don't see them getting these reforms passed, or at least all of these reforms passed, in the span of a month and a half. I think the SPD is going to be taking more losses. I think the CDU could be taking more losses. I think the AFDs could be making more gains. And I think the current trends with the current party dynamics are going to continue trending. I mean, look, in the research Discord, we've gone as far as, I should also, I think, pin this message. We always try and pin the first message. We have links to all the opinion polling Wikipedia pages. So this is for the general election. So if a snap election is called, this is what we'll be looking at here. But the elections in September that I'm talking about, here are the polling. Here's the polling for all of the September elections in Germany. So AFD is way up here in the top right, and CDU is way down here. And you can clearly see people have been leaving the CDU, going to AFD. And it looks like a bunch of people have been leaving BSW and going to Die Linke. And then you can see the actual numbers here. Then we have, I believe this is is this Berlin? Yeah, this is Berlin. So in Berlin, the CDU is leading, but it's dropping like a rock so consistently for like the last 2 years. You can just see support for the CDU has been falling, and it has actually started accelerating lower here. And in the meanwhile, you have the Greens, the AFD, and even Linke doing pretty okay here. And the SPD has just been oscillating back and forth. Seems like mostly with the Greens. So if the SPD loses seats, those seats I would imagine would go to the Greens. But it seems like it'd have to be, oh man, the CDU really ties itself with its arms behind its back by not getting the coalition with the CDU. Oh man. And then here you have Mecklenburg. And so you have AFD at the top here, but the SPD is really growing faster. So maybe they do well, the SPD does well in Mecklenburg, but the CDU just keeps falling and falling and falling until Link is just hanging out sideways there. BSW is actually still on. It's actually still there. That's kind of impressive. That they're even still in the race. They're just above that 5% threshold, I think. You have to have, I think, above 5% of the votes in order to be a part of the government at all. To have any seats, I think, to be considered in the government, to have seats. But yeah. It's, you know, outside of one of them where the CDU is leading, and you could have maybe Greens SPD running, the one in Berlin, it seems like it's AFD winning mostly across the board pretty clearly. Now, let's see here. We can go on to a couple other things that are coming up here. Labour Party leadership election in the UK. Next week, we're going to be getting some information on exactly who is going to be nominated to run for the Labour Party leadership and essentially become the next Prime Minister of the UK for a while, right? No one has announced their candidacy other than Andy Burnham. I listened to this guy, Al Carnes. So in the Discord, we also have the 2026 Labour Party leadership thread. And Harold is in the UK. He lives there, and he does a great job of staying on top of stuff, man. And he's also helped me, like, hey, Joe, you got to check this out. Joe, you got to check that out. And I'll go off, do my extra research. And then with that information, I come back with like 10 more links. Like, hey, look at this thing that I found. Look at that thing that I found. It's very collaborative. And then even little quotes from other bits of research that I found. And you can see, like, hey, here's a bank saying, here's how this election is significant for us and for trading, and why it might impact financial policy, why it might move yields, etc., right? Helping us set better expectations once we know what the result is. Now, look, not every election is going to move things, but you want to generally know who's getting into power and what their aims are, so that then when they are elected, you have a better sense of what to expect before that happens. So let's go back. So that's one thing that we're following. Oh, right. The New Zealand election is also happening. They're having their election in November. This is just a little catch up. And it seems like, I believe it is the Labour Party of New Zealand is now in the lead. They're ahead of the Nationals. But why? Why is the Labour Party now leading? When I saw this, I was like, oh shit, what happened? What happened to the Nationals? And I'm like, what's going on? And I was like, does this have to do with that New Zealand First Party? The people who said we don't want? So, one of New Zealand, a little background here, New Zealand and Australia, New Zealand and India were having negotiations with each other on a trade deal. And the New Zealand Prime Minister is talking to Modi, talking about, look at all the great stuff we're going to be able to do together. And one of the things that they agreed on in the trade deal between India and New Zealand is that there will be more visas available for Indians wanting to go to New Zealand. And one of the MPs from New Zealand First voted against the trade deal. The National Party was bringing the trade deal forward into Parliament to get accepted. They thought New Zealand First was going to help them out, but to their surprise, they said no, because we don't like this expanded set of visas. We don't want you to be giving these visas. And one MP made the rounds in New Zealand politics news because he said, I will not vote for a butter chicken tsunami in my country. Oh, man. And every single political pundit, if they were anywhere to the left of the political spectrum, they were calling him a racist. Anyone to the right of the political spectrum were just saying, oh, I disagree with him. I don't think what he said was right. And the National Party did not go as far as calling him a racist. But a butter chicken tsunami. Look, I just think it's kind of funny. I just think it's kind of funny, okay? It's kind of ridiculous. I've never heard that term described. And to use it in politics as well is such a ballsy move. But apparently it resonated with New Zealand voters because the black line is the New Zealand First Party. And the rate of decline of the National Party here since the beginning of January 2025 is about the same slope as the rise of the New Zealand First no butter chicken party. Oh, man. They're polling higher than their Greens party. So and by the way, I actually found out that so I was trying to find commentary from the New Zealand First Party on how they were responding and talking about that MP that made that comment. And I believe it was the head of the party, of some old guy. He came out and talked to the press in front of the Parliament after leaving the Parliament, outside of it. And they were asking him those types of questions. And after they were done, I just kept listening to the interview, and he went on to talking about politics and geopolitics and Iran. And at that point, I didn't even know that the guy was the New Zealand First Party. But I had to take a double take because he said, oh, I have a direct line with Marco Rubio. I have a direct line with the White House, the current administration. I'm like, this New Zealand political figure? Who's this guy? So I had to look him up. Apparently he was the leader of the New Zealand First Party. And he's got he's been developing a relationship with the U.S. side of things. Now, the guy's old as shit. I don't think he's going to be, like, there for a long time. So he's got to pass those relationships on to someone else. But I was like, oh, okay, something's going on there. But yeah, that's what's going on in New Zealand. And it's likely going to hand the New Zealand election, the general election, over to the Labour Party. So the Labour Party is probably just going to get a free win for this next election for New Zealand. And they've been out of power for a little while. They've been increasing in popularity, as you can see. So now it's time to do a little research on, okay, what's the economic policy that Labor is going to try and push as the leader of the government. What are they going to try and do when you know they have the presidency? And frankly, that's research I haven't quite done yet, but you know, we're getting into a bunch of elections over the second half of this year, and this stream is going to be focused on, hey, there's a bunch of elections happening in the second half of this year. We have to start watching these things now, figuring out who's in charge now, familiarizing ourselves with their policy now, so that when these elections go down and they are elected, we are not surprised by the policies they lay out later in their administration on fiscal policy, on immigration, on all sorts of stuff, right? On taxes, right? I mean, that falls into fiscal policy technically, but it's good to know these things now before they start making policy in the future, because it will just be a total headache and you'll get totally overwhelmed if you have to get like this fire hose of information right at you as soon as they announce some big policy bill, as soon as they announce, oh, we're going to be making this change to a tax, right? It's best to just learn a little bit about what's going on each day for all these different countries. Familiar, like, oh, I know that guy's name. Oh, he showed up in the news here and there and here and there. And you just slowly build up like, oh, I remember that guy. He said this thing a while ago because I've been reading the news about this country. Da 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 da. Now, do you need to do this if you're doing equities? Hell no. Unless you're doing international equities, then hell yes, right? And frankly, a lot of people, you know, it's not so bad to consider diversification into global equities, because there are times when markets outside of the United States and Europe perform better. Yeah, it's such a limiting thing to only focus on the US or only focus on Europe. Look, those places do really well most of the time, and I like having exposures there. But there are other places in the world where great things are happening, where great returns can be found, and also orthogonal returns that aren't necessarily totally correlated, right? Just by physically going to just a different market. Like if you have exposure to something that's crashing in the United States, it might not be crashing in New Zealand or Australia or the Philippines or China or Japan. Like, again, a lot of markets are correlated internationally, but not everything is. So it's useful to know how these different countries operate and look at all the different investment opportunities that exist in all these different countries, and you get to learn so much more about the world. I mean, you'll meet people from all over the world, and if you know a little bit about these countries when you meet them, you're able to relate with them a hell of a lot more than you otherwise would have been able to. Even if, you know, all you know are things in a political or a financial case, right? But those things will seep into cultural aspects of New Zealand, right? Like the chicken thing, right? And, you know, even someone who's a communist in New Zealand, if I met them and told them about, they're like, yeah, that was kind of ridiculous, wasn't that? we could probably start talking and relating over that, right? I was like, that's kind of insane, right? Let's see, what else is going on? Oh yeah, the French are having their Senate elections, and it was essentially already set. because it's an indirect election. They had municipal elections back in March, and it's the people elected in those municipal elections back in March that are the people who vote for who goes into the French Senate, and they are re-electing about half the French Senate right now. This is what it looks like. It's just half empty, right? Half the French Senate is up for grabs right now. And I believe Le Pen's party, that's another thing. It's her court date is coming up, July the 7th. We're going to find out if Marine Le Pen will ever be president of France on July the 7th. Excuse me. If they say on July the 7th she can't run for president, she can still appeal it, but it won't be in time. Her appeal won't go through in time for the presidency, and she will not be president this year or potentially ever. But that essentially means that explicitly Jordan Bardella is going to be running for president of France. And yeah, it's very, very, very likely Bardella can end up as president of France. Oh, yeah, and then we have some earnings stuff here I was looking at. Just keeping up to date with how earnings are progressing. There's actually something cool here for the equity guys who've watched this long on the geopolitical stuff, right? Down here at the bottom, there are some earnings forecasts. S&P year-over-year earnings and revenue growth. So earnings for Q2, 24%, Q3, 27%, and Q4, 25%. And then look how it drops off in 2027. Like all under 20%. I think this might have to get revised up if AI continues doing this well into next year. And frankly, I'd kind of expect it to. Look, I am kind of sold on the expectation that computer prices for like RAM and, storage, because you do SSD, hard drives, and NVMe, right? Storage and RAM and graphics, it's just all the computer parts are going to be expensive for years. I don't think we're going to be seeing prices go down for a few years here. And honestly, that's going to hurt. That will make the stock market do really well. It's not going to be so great for Bitcoiners, because all these crypto guys need mining capacity that they're not going to be able to get, because it's going to the AI guys and not to the crypto miners anymore. Like, when we talk about spare capacity, if between when AI data centers weren't processing tokens and generating tokens, they were mining crypto, maybe that would help Bitcoin. But the issue is that it's so much more economically profitable to stop your Bitcoin mining operation, take if it's compatible, and use it, you could say resell it on some kind of renter website where people can rent your hardware for their AI applications, rent your hardware for generating tokens. You make way more money doing that than mining Bitcoin right now. Significantly more money. There will be a time at some point in the future where you'll see an article that says it is more profitable to mine Bitcoin than it is to rent your whatever hardware out to guys who need to generate tokens. And then you're going to see some people take their AI hardware and move it over to mining some crypto. Oh yeah, and this is just the stocks. This is just for Europe. We can actually see if there's something similar here. Oh yeah. Look at that. That was kind of crazy when I saw it. The earnings expectation for Q4 2026 in Europe for the stock 600 is 36%. 36%. Q4 in Europe is going to be insane. That's really good. I have to kind of investigate that. Why are there such high earning expectations for Q4 2026 in Europe? I have no clue right now, man. I want to find out why that is. I want to find out so badly. Because I want to get into those companies, man. Whatever company is expected to have that great earnings 2 quarters out from now, I want to know what the hell that company is, man. And this is some week ahead stuff from Financial Juice, which is, you know, sugar and top. Oh yeah, people are going to be watching ISM next week. I kind of expect it to come in nominally. I don't think it, you know, ISM is a survey. So I don't expect the survey to come in absolutely terribly. The jobs data that came out that really moved markets a lot. That data is more hard. That's not a survey. So surveys are probably going to be more meek. I don't expect a whole lot of volatility on the survey side, frankly. But yeah. Okay. I'll go ahead and end it here. We didn't do any charts today. I would not be opposed to doing another stream tomorrow where we went ahead and covered some charts just to kind of make up for now. Yeah, there we go. It's doing something funky. It's doing something funky. Can I just cut it out? Yeah, I'll just cut it out. So we'll go ahead and do a stream probably tomorrow. More likely Sunday, because I got people I'm going to be hanging out with. Things I want to do tomorrow for the 4th of July, this very special 4th of July, 250th celebration of signing the Declaration of Independence. Man, very, very proud to be an American, you know. So happy. And it's oh, I remember during the first Trump term, Trump publicly started making all the plans for the 250th anniversary. He started like setting things aside for it way back then and thinking about it very, very publicly. And then he loses 2020 and gets back in the office. And he mentioned it quite a lot. I never expected to be, you know, here. I thought I was going to win that second term and somebody else would be doing this, but I'm so happy I'll be able to get to do this. And man, I'm pretty happy he's able to do it too, because he's having the largest fireworks show in history. at the White House in Washington, the largest fireworks show in history. And for a huge celebration for, you know, the number one world power for 250 years. Yeah. Give us the largest fireworks show. I'll be watching it alongside the fireworks here in Las Vegas, which will be fucking killer. The fireworks here in Vegas are always so nice because, you know, it's a nice flat desert, so everyone, you just look up and you're able to see this huge horizon of fireworks. Man, it's going to be a very special 4th of July. It's going to look awesome. It's going to be hot as hell as well because I'm in the middle of a fucking desert. But I'm very, very happy to be American. Very, very happy to be very, very happy for all of you who've watched this far. Again, if you want to hang out with me in the Discord, do some trade research, cover some of these political things going on, and maybe go through some of those outlooks, feel free to join me there over in Plan the Profit Discord. Link to that is in the description. Join through the WAP. We'll likely do a stream on Sunday, guys. I've been your boss, and I will see you guys in a bit.